Testing. Fast down there. Okay, hey guys, day 4 on the Iceland expedition trip. We started off in the Western Fjords, just did an F-road up there, which was a dead-end road. A little bit choppy, but nothing too bad. You know, the roads out here, the F-roads, aren't as technical nowhere near as some of our green lanes. I just think it's probably the remoteness of it and the conditions which make you probably a bit more hazard or nervous towards them. The reason on this trip I suggested or really mandated that everyone had to be on a 650 single or below is because it allows the average rider to ride those kind of roads with confidence, which is why the bike selection we've got on this trip pretty much universally CRS, Vogue, GS310s. There's a few bigger bikes, and one of the questions somebody raised yesterday was, would you go through each of the bikes or go through the bikes on the trip just to show what they are and what they've done to them. So that's what I thought I'd do today. We've just stayed at a hostel still up towards the Western Fjords, and we're heading east now towards better weather. It's been a little bit rough today, and so I think the conditions and the type of riding you do has a real factor or relationship with the type of bike that you're on. So if I grab the camera and I'll just explain a little bit more. So the CRF 3, let me take this off. So we've got CRF 300Ls. So all these bikes, remember, were shipped up from Immingham to up to Reykjavik. Now the alternative is to take the ferry up from Denmark, which is about 1,000 miles from the UK, and then come onto the island via a 2-day ferry. When I did this trip in 2017, I did it on a GS 1200, and I found that bike great for doing the trip up through Denmark to Iceland. But then when I got to Iceland, I found it too big, too heavy for exploring the F-roads on my own, which again is why I mandated people come on 650cc and below, just for the fact that once you're on the island, a smaller bike to me allows you to go more places. So we've got a CRF 300 here. This is Graham's, a stock bike. It's just got the Krieger luggage on it, giant loop tank bag, stock handlebars, a USB charger. He's got the folding wing mirrors, which seem a nice touch. Now we're cruising at about 55 miles an hour, and bearing in mind that the speed limit is 50 miles an hour. So it's not like we're off pace in terms of keeping up with road traffic. Actually, we're doing quite fine, and we're not being overtaken, and the bikes are going along okay. Today we had a lot of headwind, which does mean that a bike with lower power, such as these and the CRF 300 Rally, do struggle a little bit into a headwind, but not terribly, and you can still maintain 50 miles an hour. The only thing, again, with a lighter bike is you do get blown around a little bit by the wind. People always argue that a lighter bike is best. Well, to be honest, travelling, certainly we're in places where there's high wind, sometimes a bit of weight helps with a bit of stability. So I'm not always in favour of the light is right. Sometimes there's a bit of a compromise. So this is Phil's bike. He's got the Krieger sidebars on, the Outback Motorec crash bars. What else we got? Outback Motorec rear rack and a sort of Touratech top box. So the Rally's doing a good job. The Rally's a good bike for this. A little bit more tank range than the L, and also a bit more cockpit protection. So the 300 Rally has always been a great choice for exploration and adventure motorcycling, and I think it's proven so again in this case. Tyres on it, we've got what we got, Michelin Anarchy Wilds. These sort of 50-50 tyres are a great tyre for Iceland. I don't think you need anything too aggressive like the Michelin Trackers, because the terrain is just not that slippy or muddy or slushy, not like we get in the UK. A lot of it is shale and quite grippy, so you'd actually do it with a stock tyre. So they're both wearing Anarchy Wilds. Then we've got Graham's GS310. He's got the Rally Raid suspension on this, a level 1, which retains the regular seat height, but just gives him better suspension quality. He's got risers on this, small little screen. The 310 GS is probably in a way, a compromise bike versus the CRF. Not as out and out trail friendly, but for the road sections, and if you were riding up through Denmark, it would be the better. I'd choose that over that, because that's going to sit on the motorway at 70-75, and when you get here, it's still manageable on the trails, although not as good as the CRF. So again, where do you cut your cloth? Where do you compromise? The slight downside with the 310 GS is this broad 19-inch front wheel. It's a 110 section on the front, which does mean in this loose shale that we encounter, it does move around a little bit. and can be a little bit disconcerting even with a knobbly tyre. So, don't think, oh, I can put a knobbly tyre on and it'll give me loads of grip. Well, a 21-inch 90 section tyre such as the CRF is always going to give you more grip and cut through the gravel than these broader 19 section front. So, these are a compromise bike, these sort of 310, 390s, or any bike with a 19-inch front wheel, really. Personally, I really do like a 21-inch front. I find it just cuts through the gravel a lot better and gives you more confidence and doesn't really compromise the road. So it would err me towards a 21-inch front. Another CRF, this one is Carl's. Carl's got an Acerbis tank, a long-range tank. So the standard tank's about 7.7 litres and good for maybe 140 miles. With a bladder, like a soft bladder in your luggage or a jerry can, you could make a stock CRF work, well, as people are doing. But this Acerbis one, I think, is a great way of kitting out your CRF. Whether you just be better buying a rally is down to you. Obviously, there's options galore there. It's a bit of a nav tower on that. Navigating around Iceland is really easy, to be honest. There's not that many roads. It's not like you have to make too many turns. So I won't worry too much about navigation. Google Maps works, although it doesn't pick up the F roads, so it won't guide you down the F roads. You'll have to use something like My Route app or something like that to take you on those F roads. Obviously, bash plates. I don't think bash plates and ground clearance are equally a big need or a necessity out here, just because you're not hopping over any rocks and there's not any rock steps as such. It's all, again, shale. We've got Ian's 701 Husky, a beautiful bike, as light as a CRF, but with 3 times the power. It's kind of an amazing machine, really, when you think about what it offers. He's got it well kitted out. We've got the Moscow Moto luggage, and I think he's got it lowered here, and I think it's got a touch lower, but that's going to blast along quite nicely on these open stretches in Iceland. Would you want to come through Denmark on it? Well, that's down to you, whether you're comfortable on the seat. Pros and cons over the CRF. I mean, that's for you to argue. But it's a more exotic way of doing what the CRF does, with more power, obviously. But that's working out well for Ian. I think he seems happy on that. The Vosges, the Vosges really is a bargain basement wonder of these kind of trips. You can buy one of these second hand now with a few hundred miles on for just over £3,000. Now you could buy six Vosges to one GSA adventure, or you could come to Iceland 6 times for the price of a GSA adventure. That's the sort of value that this bike offers. And as Bob, I think this is Bob's bike, he said, Bob's a man of senior years who's done a lot of riding on a lot of different bikes, and he's on a Vosges, and he said, it just does it. You buy it, it does it. It does the job without any faff, without any modifications. Stock tyres, although this has got the AX41s on them. But it's just for somebody who just wants a bike to do the job straight out of the crate, the only other one to match it is a Himalayan, really. This is my bike that I've lent to Greg for the trip. It has got the high lift cam and it has got the high lift suspension, but a stock Himalayan on stock tyres is another perfect bike for an Iceland trip. You've got a 15-litre tank, that's going to take you plenty of distance. You've got lots of options for luggage, whether it's using hard panniers or the pannier frames and a dry bag on the back. Another good job. The Himalayan will go around this island all day long, every day, and it'll take you up the F-roads with a lot of confidence. The 400X that I'm on, I've got to say, I really like the bike. Actually, I'm really enjoying the engine. The engine is such a perfect engine for travelling on, because it's flexible, it's smooth. It sort of fades into the background when you want it to, when you're just sort of pottering along or just cruising. But then it's got some wind-on power when you want it. So to me, it's just got a real maturity about the engine, which means it's not making a lot of noise, it's not making a lot of fuss, but it's got power when you need it. And for me, that makes it a good travel bike. Comfort's been good. I've got no issues with the seat. The only issue I've got is the suspension. The front suspension just lacks any travel, really. I'm getting clouted with every time I hit anything sharp, which has plenty of little potholes on the dirt roads. I get a real kick through the forks. So this, unfortunately, doesn't have the Rally Raid fork internals in it yet. I wish they had been, because that might have made my journey a bit more comfortable. So what we've got is, actually, I think it's a really great bike. It's a bike capable of far more than I thought it was, but I would want some better suspension. I'd love to see this with a nice long 200mm suspension travel fork on it, even something like the Himalayan fork, just to give it that sort of long travel floating softness that you need as a travel bike in this terrain. Another Vosges. 790, so this one slipped through the net. Paul had got another bike and which was proving unreliable, so he brought his 790. Now to me, it really, seeing people on these bikes and the weight and the metal panniers, it really does reinforce, in my mind at least, why I want people on smaller bikes for this kind of trip. Because these are big bikes. There's a lot of weight, there's a lot of power, and a lot of that is unnecessary on this kind of trip. If you're a very capable rider, and Julian, who's my other guide on this trip, he's on a 790 or an 890 Adventure R, very strong, capable rider. He could take that bike anywhere on Iceland, no problems at all. And I think that's a caveat. Those bigger bikes with more power are brilliant bikes in the hands of the people who can maneuver and manage them in difficult terrain. But for everybody else, the bigger the bike, the harder the effort. And so you've got to ask yourself, if you come into somewhere like Iceland or Morocco, do you need the power that comes with the bigger bike? Because often I don't think you do. But by having the power, you've got the compromise and the weight and the stress of managing it, and the expense, the fuel economy and the servicing and the consumables, the tyres, everything like that. You've got to ask yourself, at what point does it make sense? But equally, whatever you're happy on. But for me, a little bit too big for me. I wouldn't want to be on that bike on some of those trickier trails. Certainly if you're on your own, here on your own exploring, it would put me off exploring, just as the GS 1200 did. There were tracks I didn't do on that journey, that first journey I made to Iceland, simply because I was on my own on a GS 1200, and if it went wrong, I would be in trouble. So I didn't do tracks which I would have done on something like the Vosges. You know, that's the thing. So we've got another Vosges and then a Scram, which is again doing the job really well. You know, would you have a Scram over a Himalayan? No, I'd have a Himalayan, but the Scram, like the Triumph 400, is doing the job. So that's it, that's the bikes we've got. The modifications, again, pretty minimal. What do you need to do? Well, nothing really. Get it serviced, make sure it's clean and it's got some luggage on. Luggage options are endless, aren't they? We've got a lot of, these are Jivy ones, but then we've got, let's go across to here. I'm using the Rhino Walk as his, actually, this is, whose bike is this? Bob's bike. Bob's got the Rhino Walk panniers on, no problems there. He's got no frames on that, no problems there. So 140 quid, you've got a pannier solution. Same on mine. I've got the Rally Raid. Well, I've got the Rally Raid wheels, rear shock, and a custom rear rack on that, which make the Rhino Walk panniers work well with that. We've got Lomo stuff on the Himalayan. Again, Rhino Walk, Amazon Special, Moscow Moto, SW Motec. So that's it. All sorts of bikes. Are these the bikes, right bikes for Iceland? Well, if you ask me, yes. But what I would say is, the interest I have in the 450s, whether it be the CF Moto or the Himalayan 450, is that they offer pretty much everything that these CRFs do and the Vosges do, but with that extra bit of power and refinement for doing the motorway or the long distance road miles. And that's why I think they're all like a real sweet spot. They've still got lightweight manageability, but they've got that little bit more punch, that little bit more power for getting you to the places in the first place. So that's why I think, you know, I think the 450 market is where the action's at, just because it's the ultimate compromise for a tour like Iceland. In the meantime, pick your poison. Go small and light, or go big. Choice is yours. All right, from a chilly, blustery summer's day in Iceland, I shall head to bed. All right, take care, bye.